So let's get into eco-villages. We started at the very broad scale of eco-cities, and then we moved into eco-districts, and now we're moving into eco-villages, which could be a single building or a collection of buildings in a neighborhood that generally, again, are self-sufficient, carbon neutral, waste neutral, water neutral, etc. An eco-village are intentional communities, and that's a very tricky word. Intentional meaning a thoughtfully designed community where all of these things come to bear to create sustainability. And so the word intentional there is really pretty critical. Eco-villages are small, and the key number here is 150. There's been a lot of research that's been shown that once you go above 150 people, not everybody can know everybody in an easy way. And so these are smaller subdivisions of eco-districts. And we look at families and individuals and small groups of people not necessarily affiliated living in very close quarters. This requires remarkable social capital in order to work, because people tend to start to not to like each other when they live too closely. So there's not just a physical aspect to this and a technological aspect, but there's a very deep social aspect to this. So how do you live in harmony? Well, again, let's watch out for utopia here. I'm all about a eco-village, but I also know that it won't be perfect. And the idea that there's some perfect way to live is really a utopia, a fallacy. And I think we need to reject imperfection and try to think about how we can move forward. One of the great things about eco-villages is the ability to share these technologies. As I've done a lot of net zero buildings, I find there's not enough space on roofs and not enough land to deal with stormwater or geothermal. So we need to begin to share our sustainable technologies. And what these eco-villages do is really allow a really super efficient way to do that, and ultimately can impact climate change in a very direct way. These villages want to be economically self-sufficient. So we talked about resilience a little bit, this idea that these villages can remain economically viable regardless of what the general global economy is in. Tend to be mixed use, tend to be walkable, tend to be made from local materials generally, and tend to be waste neutral as much as possible in general. Tends to be thinking from closing all of the loops. All of the energy, material, and water loops are closed, so there's no discharge of pollution or waste. Thought I'd show you a couple examples of some eco-cities, eco-villages around the world. This is Auroville in India, and yes, this one does suffer from some utopianism. A couple of my students actually are living there right now and having a good time. And here we're looking at this idea that's been supported by UNESCO. And there is a spiritual undercurrent here. And again, I want to reiterate the intense need for social capital here. That living in tight quarters, living in an intentional community means that you have a alignment of philosophy and alignment of belief. And here it happens to be spiritual. And so here's some of the sketches of the original village. And here they're looking at 50,000 people. I might actually rethink this as an eco-district if I was redoing this lecture. It's probably too big to be considered an eco-village. So chalk that up to experience. Another one is the eco-village at Currumbin. I believe this is in Queensland. And this project has 144 homes, and it's on 110 acres, so not very dense. And it is a developer, and it's to establish a diverse and integrated community for residents of different cultural and socioeconomic backgrounds. And we've seen that gradation of social, of economic mobility is probably critical to create the resilience of the community to have its ability to persist. So it wants to be self-sufficient from energy, water, and waste. It wants to generate all its own energy, and it wants to push the community forward in terms of all of the outcomes that are necessary for that to happen. And so people have to conform. And that's where it gets really interesting, is you have to buy into these villages in order to succeed. If you don't, you'll have conflict, and that's something that we probably don't want to see. There's a great video on that. I will post that video up also in your module so you can watch that, so it won't be right here. And I'm going to move on to BedZed, which is probably one of the greatest examples of an eco-village out there. And BedZed has had some success, actually. It's been around long enough to measure whether it's been successful or not. Bill Dunster, the architect, developed by the Bioregional Group, and was built in 1996, planned in 1996, built in 2002, 4 acres and 240 residents. So it has the density that one might look for from a sustainability point of view. And there's a picture of it. Some would say it's beautiful, some would not. Some don't like the gridded organization. Some of the highlights: reduce heat consumption by 90%, achieve net zero carbon, 15% of construction materials are reused. Will, with 10 years, provide power for 40 electric vehicles. Did not make it. Is that okay? Yeah, of course it's okay. We have to try to move forward. But one of the great things about this is it tried to use district scale or village scale energy systems, tried to be walkable, tried to think about food production, tried to think about car sharing. That is the wall section of the building. So there is, I think that's mineral wool, which is considered a sustainable insulation material. And really at the core of energy efficiency is that design, passive design, and here they have that. This is one of the best systems diagrams I've seen, and really looks at how the houses operate from a systems point of view. And one of the things I really am interested in is the biofuel, combined heat and power. It's got a living machine proposed. I think it ended up not working. It's got rainwater collection. It's got heat recovery. It's got all of those things that you look for in a sustainable home. The actual performance, 88% less heating. It almost met the benchmarks of 90%. Hot water consumption was 57% less than typical. The electric power is 3 kilowatts per person per day. It was 25% less than the average. Not net zero, but still a move forward. And main water consumption was reduced by 50%. Is that successful? I'd say, yeah, it's successful because most other communities are not getting there. So this is really moving towards an intentional desire to move towards a sustainable future. And the living machine tended not to work over time. The units tended to be pretty attractive. There tended to be some interesting site locations, some nice roof decks. So it did have a quality of life that was not like this monastery of sustainability. There was actual enjoyment in life, that sustainability doesn't have to be a diet where people suffer. So I hope you enjoyed these brief case studies. I hope you'll watch the videos that I posted that will give you more details. And I hope that you personally will begin to think about your involvement in your own eco-village. How do you make that happen? How do you take the steps? And remember, it takes a really long time to do it. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Thanks a lot. Bye.